Hi, and welcome to the Holistic Hub with Marie and Martine, a welcoming, nurturing, and soul supporting environment of all things spiritual, energy, and alternative. Our intention is to freely and lovingly share the personal truths, stories, or wisdoms we've gained, hopefully offering any guidance, new perspective, or light bulb moment that you may wish to take away to assist you through your navigation of the journey out of 3D, through 4D, and toward 5D and beyond. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Holistic Hub. It's been some time. I don't even know how long it's been, but we've both had a bit of a break. We're not purposefully. We've been doing our thing. I know Martine's been doing her stuff. I have certainly been doing my stuff, but I'm propelling out the other side. It's a birthday thing for me coming, so I know that I've been shedding and purging, but things have shifted. So we've managed to get our bums into gear and get here today. So hi, Martine, and hi, everybody.
Hey Marie, episode 7.
I know. Very exciting.
Yeah, it's a
How
good
have you?
number.
Yeah, well, it's my number. That's my
Mm,
numerology. So yeah.
mm.
How have you been? What have you been doing?
Same. So, another micro dark night of the soul, just one of those.
The usual.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely been I'm just adoring the ascension, the collective ascension at the moment, and all that clicks us into gear moment to moment. So, no 2 days are the same, no plans work
Mm,
out. It's a phenomenal time to be alive. And I know that many of you out there are very challenged by this time. Um, but again, we're all doing it together, and it feels like for me, like I feel really excited, more excited about this time, because in the past I felt as though sometimes it does feel a bit isolating walking this journey alone, and now we're all in it. So it doesn't
yep.
feel quite so alone anymore. And I think that at the end of the day, we've just got so many beautiful, passionate people just continuously beginning to emerge, and just the layers of nurture around us that we can remind ourselves of through everyone.
Mm,
And whether we spend time with someone or whether we just reconnect with that part of ourselves, the possibilities are endless. It's kind of like when Google created information overload, we now have an abundance of gateways, keys, whatever you want to call it, to come back into love. It's just making that choice, as simple as that.
yeah. No, it's a huge shifting time, and it is exciting. And we have to keep remembering through our hardships at times and our flat moments and our down the spiral times that, this is all okay. It's all designed. We've designed it. We're part of the greater creatorship of everybody. And there is that momentum definitely coming in many ways, but certainly of soul's awakening, as it's meant to be. So hang in there, and just, yeah, as best you can, just stop fighting the process, because the more you fight, the harder it gets. And we've all done it. It doesn't matter who you may compare yourself to, who you think knows it, doesn't know, whatever. Let all that crap go, because it's just finding your space that fits you, that you can sit within, wherever that be, however that looks, to find comfort for yourself and just be there until you can breathe again, until you can move out of it on your own gracious way. Just, yeah, and learn to call out. That's all I can offer, is call out to the support team, the people you know who are going to guide you, just to sit with you, to be with you, or just to send love and grace and comfort to you, until you're ready to move. That's
Yeah.
it. But you're certainly not alone, ever.
And
That's for
just
sure.
reminding you of those beautiful tools that we've talked about in the previous holistic hubs. I've certainly noticed throughout any day, at the end of the day, we haven't been implementing those tools. So again, Marie was speaking about in the violet flame, that she wakes up in the middle of the night to a violet flame. I've definitely reinstated this beautiful grounding practice that I do as my feet hit the ground when I get out of bed. And boy, do I notice the difference that my days do when I do that, versus if I just get out and just
Uh,
start moving.
yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a great way to move into our water topic too today, because it's all what you've just described as just simply being conscious. Consciousness is everything. That when you're conscious to what you're doing or your intention of how you want to do something, that's when you are a creator of what you will ultimately experience and what you'll see in your world and feel. So consciousness is paramount in everything you do now, and to become more and more conscious, be it your breath, be it your intention, be it your words. These are our power, sovereign moments where we stand up and we're really saying, this is what I want to create. Simply through your willingness and attention to be conscious in the moment. Mm. And that's very much what water's about, because water for me is all about your consciousness, and it's about energy, and it's about the movement of all emotions, of all your soul energy is mirrored back through the power of this amazing gift that we call water. But I'll hand it to you, Martine, for this, because I know to begin with, I know mine might be a bit heavier to come in on. So we'll start with you, because homeopathy is all about water and the power of water. So over to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when we came up with water, we're like, oh, let's do like an elemental series. But, there's so many topics that we're so excited to share with you, and we're just endless with them. So it's not like the Holistic Hub's going to stop anytime soon. So brace yourself. Water is absolutely, I'm so passionate about it. Just back even to Dr. Emoto, in all of his work, like I feel like that was when beautiful. I feel like that was when I really atoned to understanding just how powerful water is. And again, my journey with homeopathy is one where books just came flying off the shelves when I would frequent all these new age shops. I hadn't even taken a homeopathic before I started studying it. That's how much it resonated with whatever was happening in my soul to activate its aliveness. And so, when I started learning about how water is in homeopathics, it just compounded my love for understanding why I've chosen this modality as one of my most frequently used things to activate, to bring us back, to realign, to release those onion layers of blocks, whatever you want to call them. From a nerd alert perspective, we are all water. Like the whole planet is more water than anything. It's a constant shift and move of water. Every living organism has water in it. We need to consume water to stay alive. If we don't consume water for 3 days, generically the body starts to suffer. And in saying that, we are in a beautiful movement of ascension in our bodies and where we're going with that. So don't hold on to that as a belief structure. But, these are just sort of simple understandings of aligning as to why we have so much impact by the water, by how the moon affects the tides, by our menstrual cycle. It's endless. We absorb, like big conversation amongst all the 8-year-olds around me at the moment is like blowing their brains with, that when you say that the skin is the largest organ, and they're like, whoa. And then, then you can touch on just how much it absorbs. Just think about how much we touch every day, what we touch every day, and we're constantly absorbing. We're sort of on par, like from a nutritional perspective, meant to sort of consume around 2.5 liters of water a day. We actually absorb an extra like 1.5 liters into the body through our showers, through any water immersion around us. Like, remember that the air is just these little particles of water. And what is water? Water is essentially another really cool molecule that's joined together. It's got it's a dipole, so it's got a positive and a negative charge to it, and it's constantly attracting every other water particle around it, and it forms what we call constructs or shapes around that. And this is where Dr. Emoto's work came in, where he saw all of these beautiful geometric patternings within his water structure. Crystals. And how then when they've done even more research and they've understood, the water that if we're living on town water, like the sharp turns that the water has to make through these pipes, or just the length of travel that it has to do to reach us, and how that then changes our water. So Marie and I kind of wanted to touch on this today because, again, we've always got the opportunity to sink into the lower vibration of anything. So we can go, well, then that's it. Tap water's done. We can't drink tap water. We're not really nourishing our bodies. But the thing is, like, that any part of water can then be reactivated, re-supercharged, and this is where science, so you can go to like so much information on this, where they've put, we could put this beautiful quartz crystal in the water, and the quartz crystal will emanate out its frequency into the water. You could put anything in there, so that the frequency of a pen, I don't really want to go into too much scientific research into this, but if I put a pen in there, think about it. If I'm putting like a sealed pen and nothing can get out, so this isn't necessarily a sealed pen, there could be potential of ink being leaked out into the water. But say I had an object that I put in the water that nothing could reach between that object and the water, that what's in that object in the water, that water still takes on the frequency. So then we get into that this beautiful path of homeopathy, where for years homeopathy has been scrutinized against for not having any material substance. And, we work with a mathematical number called Avogadro's number. And again, I'm not going to try and get too nerdy for you because this is like right up my nerd alley. But this is where we get those different potencies from. So when we're talking about like a Schussler tissue salt, like a 6X, then we're talking about something that still actually scientifically can be proved that it has a particle of substance in it. Once we get up to a 12C or a 12X, then we start to move into what was known as more of an energetic vibration. So we're talking about how a substance has been, is now not visible to like a microscope or, the naked eye. And so it infuses into the water in what we call shaping that water, like we talked about before, but also in what we know as like a nanoparticle, which we've now in science proved nanoparticles exist, and they use nanoparticles in many, many things in not so great ways. And so, this is where homeopathy has then begin to have some validation, because no two remedies are the same. No two potencies are the same. But now it's about understanding then how it affects our body. Well, again, if we just take it back to that simple rule that we're, depending on our size, depending on who we are, we're around 70 to 90% water. So how is it that when we drink water or consume something that has water, that it's not going to affect us on a deeper scale? Is that too nerdy, Marie?
No. Well, I mean, a lot of people here are homeopathic clients, so I think it's really good for them, if they don't know, just to have a little bit more of an in-depth side to that science aspect. Because again, we in the spiritual communities, we start to awaken. We've got lots of books and they're wordy and they're all out there about, whatever you might be reading, masters, this, that, auras, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is, when we talk about water, when I started my journey with changing me and changing and understanding about the water aspects of me, it was different to Martine's journey, because I wasn't a huge, massive homeopathy person then. I'm just, I was a mum who tried it, liked it, knew it was there, and I was just someone that had to walk my path in other ways. So how I came to understand water was, firstly, we're physical beings. And to see that physical side, I sort of really grasped from the energy side of things, the physics part of that. So the physics of physical, this is what we are. We're energy. And what is physics? It's a whole range of science. So science is really important. We don't have to be nerdy scientists to get it. We can go in as far as you want to understand it. But we do have to kind of, I feel, have a little understanding. For me, it helps. So when I was opening to this journey and got to my point of understanding water, how I get there's always the slow way. I was writing a book. I've started many books, but I started this book 15 years ago, and my youngest was 2. And I remember Mary Magdalene came to me and she said, I want you to get up at 5 a.m. every morning and I want you to write this book. And I remember going, oh my God, 5 o'clock. I'm up through the night with this child. I've got 2 older teenagers. I don't get enough sleep. Okay, I'll do it. So I did. It was a real test and initiation for me, but I got up at 5. Anyway, the book progressed to a point where I got to this stage where I was questioning duality. I was questioning opposites. How do opposites attract? How does this all work? Like, I know energy attracts like. I get that. I'm learning that. I'm understanding that. But I always needed to know, because this is me, how does A get to B gets to C? I needed to know bang to bang to bang. I just couldn't be told something and get it. I needed to know, whether that's my old nursing, I don't know. But I could read and look around me and say, okay, well, I can see how opposites attract. But how does like attract like? If we're in this dualistic world and we're opposites and all the opposite polarities are all attracting each other, how does like attract like comes? I didn't get it. I wanted to know how that could be, and I wasn't happy till I got it. So one of these mornings I got up at 5 o'clock and I sat there and I thought about it, and I got the push. It was from Spirit to say, get on your computer. Well, I was already on it. It was like, get out of that and go into the internet. Now, I wasn't really good at this stage, and I'm still not the most au fait at this. But I was pushing buttons and they'd sort of push here, something would pop up, and I'd push here and I'd push here. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I ended up on the periodic table. So I wasn't sciencey nerdy at school. I only did biology. Truth, failed that. Somehow got into nursing. Go figure. Higher picture. But I'm on this side, I'm looking in the periodic table, and then I knew that water was around there. I could feel this water. I've been asking questions about water. And I was looking at this table going, and I remember saying to Spirit, well, what the hell do you want me to do with this? Because I don't know this back to front. I don't know none of this. This is not my avenue. And I kept hearing water, water, water. And I thought, okay. So I sat there and I thought, water. And then I got the flash of what is water in periodic table, H2O. So I sat there and went, okay, so I wrote it down, H2O. And then for the first time in my life, even doing nursing, I went, oh my God, hydrogen 2, oxygen. Hydrogen's more important than oxygen. There's more hydrogen here than oxygen in water. This must be important. Bing. So I had a light bulb. So I went through the periodic table, still didn't know what I was doing. And I started reading opposites attract. And they had all these things where all the periodic tables, how this element attracted opposite, this attracted opposite. I got to H2O and I got to hydrogen, and it said like attracts like. And in the end of it, where they took me, I found that was the only element that was water, H2O itself, where it had the only ability to attract and not repel or attract the opposite. This was like a light bulb for me. It was like, oh my God, this is how it all fits together. This water is the key. And from that moment on then, I went on a journey of discovering how water was the key to the whole of the spiritual consciousness, soul aspects of my being. Then I looked at everything about my water. I'm an emotional water sign. I'm Scorpio, so I'm all water. My whole life was all based in emotion or fear. But as I started to get to know water more and how important this was, and again, like Martine said, we're over 70% water. Over 70% of the earth is water. This number, these aren't coincidences. It's starting to see where things that I took for granted that were just water, the earth, these are really important keys to wake up to. And when we start to see how the earth gives us these keys and mirrors to us, and we're ready to look, all your answers are always there. And so my journey with water took me onto the consciousness and took me into my thinking patterns. And Emoto, which I showed earlier, his books, me too, boom, just added and changed me dramatically. Because when I looked at his books, and I was doing a lot of my thinking work and a lot of my throat work of what I was saying, thinking, and how I knew my words were very important. When he showed me the power of my words and the power of words upon water and what you can do to water, be it positive or not so. And he showed clearly the effects of the crystalline aspects in water in accordance to positive and negative words, be it written or spoken. That was it for me. It was like, oh my God. Because what I took instantly years ago out of that and those books was, what are my crystals like? What are the crystals in my water body like? Because I knew how fearful and how negative my world had been for so long. Well, God, I must have a lot of misshapen crystals here in my body. And my water hasn't flowed very well for a long time in my body because I had so many mishaps. I had diseases, I had health issues, I had unhappiness, I had all this stuff of negativity in my world, which was reflective of my water body. And I'd even created with my parent through genetics, energy, whatever word you want to give it, we'd created in our blood, which is water, blood is water mixed up with a whole other bunch of stuff, but it's predominantly water. Our feminine had created a blood condition where we didn't have our water flowing at all. We were all Scorpios. So we were all water, my mum, my grandmother, and me. And none of us had our flow on properly. We had a blood condition that was so many red blood cells, our blood wouldn't flow, and we were all prone to strokes and clotting. And I was picked up at 8 years of age. I was the youngest in the world to get this. So then I had to have my blood taken from my body simply to allow my flow to take place. So here I'd created this incredible physical condition to even understand that water aspect within me even more so, which would be a whole nother story. But all I'm alluding to is the importance and what we do and how we create everything to understand what we need to. But the importance of the flow of our water within and around us is vital. So while we need our water to flow, so does the Earth Mother. Her river systems, her creek systems, her streams, her tributaries. You know, what have we done with pollutants? What have we done with throwing garbage and rubbish into the systems? What have we flushed down our toilets over the past years before we became conscious to stuff? You know, where have we dammed her waters? Where have we changed the natural flow systems? These are all energies that we need to become aware of because they impact us and we impact them. We're one system, one huge organic system. And we're in a big wake up time now. Big wake up time. But like Martine said, and like Emoto said, and what we do, and many of us are doing, is that we can shift anything. We can change anything. We can change us. We can change around us simply by being conscious. But for me, this is a very paramount aspect of when we get this buoyed, we can really create some amazing change. So I've got more to say, but I'll hand back to Martine because I know I'm yakking on here too.
Yeah, well, that's one of my favorite things about homeopathy as well, is that fundamental principle of likes cures likes, and how Hahnemann came up with that, 200 odd years ago is beyond me. And especially because he realized just how powerful his medicines got the more that he would travel with them, because back then it was horse and carriage. So that's how he developed that idea around succussing, which is that rigorous shaking, because he realized that although he diluted his medicines, this is how he then understood that they were gaining power because they were vibrationally being charged as they went along, which means that the more molecules were being attracted to each other, and then it was energetically charging the medicine.
Yeah.
And so this is like, when we choose a remedy, why sometimes it's so challenging to get people's head around when they're first sort of moving over from, say, using conventional medicine or even sometimes using herbs, because a lot of herbs we use are systematic as well, whereas we're trying to really see what all the symptoms that you're showing and then match them to the frequency of a remedy. And then this remedy doesn't go in there and do the work. It goes in there and activates your healing mechanisms, because your healing mechanisms recognize the supercharge because it's a like frequency.
Yeah.
Can you see why I'm so passionate about homeopathy? But this is the same, like, for why, I'm is equally passionate about bush flowers and bark flowers and all essences, and what we choose to do with this vibration is similar to anything we're choosing. So again, You know, when I was in yoga this morning, my yoga teacher was talking about how she was aligning to the intention of bringing more love in, just that, just very simple intention like that. And she said because she chose this intention because she was feeling so much, you know, heaviness around her. And so if she just chose to intend that, she knew that the threads of love that already existed in her would just start to multiply and expand.
Yeah.
And this is the simple truth of water. So, you know, again, going back to if we're consuming 2.5 liters of this is the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning. I grab some lemon, I squeeze it in, and I chug down some water. Like, imagine if then I go ahead and I go, love, frequency of love, just have an intention with that, and then off I go and drink that. How much more that I'm already just amplifying the energies and then bringing them in. You know, even with light, like we intend light into us if we're, you know, connecting with higher flame, or we're bringing in white light, or grounding, or bringing up Mother Earth energies. That is still an intention that goes through with light. You know, how easy is it to just intend that with water and then just let the already existing molecules just change?
I think that's a good point for me to jump in there too, is because, you know, in my simplistic ways, which I am basically, I'm a very simple minded person, is, you know, to remember again from that physics part of who we really are, we're hydroelectric beings. We're water-based beings, and how energy travels through us is through the water system. So think of yourself like an electricity station, because that's how electricity flows through hydroelectrics. It's the same system, but we're it. So our water work is what carries the frequency of energy. It's the water, the hydrogen actually, that carries through that energy through our body. And there are so many amazing, so many places on the web you can go. And when I was doing this years ago, and I really got into the hydrogen part of this, because that was an element I needed to look at. And I found, again, Japanese scientists back from the 90s have done some amazing work. And I forget this guy's name, but he did a lot of work on the hydrogen. And when I listened and read his stuff, basically what he was saying is the hydrogen is the life force of water. That's what is the life force. And so right now, within the majority of the humanitarians on this planet and the earth herself, the hydrogen aspect has been depleted. And what he would call now, the water systems are dead. They are dead water. They're not alive anymore, because it's basically operating on a H1O instead of a H2O. We've depleted that life force. And that's through our lack of consciousness, again, our pollutants, the chemicals, you know, it all ties into that push away of who we really are. And we're in the reversal of that cycle now to really bring back that life force into our water body and into our water systems within and without of us. And that made a huge amount to me. So, like, this is back in the early 2000s, where then with that knowledge, like my team just said, I'd be looking at my glass of water so different to go, wow, if you've come out of the tap then, because I didn't have a purifier early 2000, I got my ceramic one, sandstone one earlier, just after that. But it was tap water. And I'd look at it and think, well, I don't know your journey. I don't know where you've been, but I'm putting this into me. And this might sound stupid, but it was all done very fast. But this is what I did to start with until it became automatic, was I just look at it and then I actually thank the water for the journey, to say, oh gosh, I'm really grateful to the earth for giving me water, because I can't live without it to a degree. I've got to have this water and I really want this water. So it's learning. I turned off, because truthfully, I was so obnoxious and so unawake that it was just water, just food, just that. It was just coming at me, just bring it. You know, I didn't have the gratitude. And gratitude's a key word here. Love is, but gratitude, I feel, is just, if not equally or more important. Because, you know, we can say I love, but what's love? Everyone's got a different version of love at times to what that is in that moment. But I think when we say we're grateful, most of us have to have a real hard energy on that we actually have had a consciousness to feel grateful, because to be grateful, we have to think, what are we grateful for? So with the water, it was like, well, I'm grateful for everything about this, that the clouds formed, that the sky, the earth mother knew what she's doing with the elements, that the systems in the water can bring this, that the people who developed the system to get me the water into my tap. I thank the people that made the taps. I thank the people that made the dams. We can send this out, but it's this consciousness of seeing the bigger picture, which I think in something as simple as a glass of water helps you then get a consciousness of looking way beyond in a whole lot of stuff and a whole heap of avenues. But just looking at that water differently and then drinking it differently because you've got a new consciousness. Well, you've just, as Martine, you've just elevated, as she said, you've elevated the frequencies in this water because you've just placed a loving energy into it. And then you're drinking of that into your system and your cells that have been created from love and grace from the Creator are just waiting for that energy and have been waiting for it for so long. And they will still sit here loving you and waiting for it. But the minute they receive it from you, accelerations. Because it's like, yes, there's a huge team of excitement that goes on in your cells because the cells are conscious. Don't think of it just as a cell in your body. This cell is alive. These atoms are alive. You are a vibration. You are multitudes and trillions of cells of vibrations. So you're this incredible symphony of energy and sound and light and you name it that's waiting for your gratitude and your awakening just to something simplistic as water. And it goes, yes. And you just feel better straight away. But then that journey of that moment of awakening, where can it lead you? How far do you want to take it? That's entirely up to you. But as I said, for me, with that, not just in water, and truthfully, and I've said it in the Violet Flame ones too, and I know Martine does it too now, or does it, is that every time with water, water is precious to me. It's absolutely precious, and I love water. Yes, it's a huge element in my body, so I've come to really love it again because I didn't love it at all. But my food, everything, the drinking water, my cooking water, my bathing water, the oceans, wherever I'm near water, I am sounding or I am sending or I'm intending or I'm gifting, I'm gratituding, whatever it is, wherever I am, I'm giving something back. Because what I give back, then I receive with that. And we can never give enough. To give is to receive. This is a real clan mother teacher. You keep giving and you keep giving with no expectation of anything in return, ever. But when you are flowing and you've got that flow of source coming through you, who are you not to give? Who are we to stop the giving? Because when we're in source energy, that's not our energy. We're just the vessel for it to keep flowing through and to offer that out as whoever we can, be it animals, the ground, the earth, the elements, people, wherever and whatever, the sky, the clouds, you name it. This is the giveaway. And it's the giveaway through our water. It's our water body is our emotional body. Our emotional body is our feeling body. Our feeling is the heart. It all comes back into this one circulatory system. I don't know. Does that make sense?
And we can atone to all the elements in that way. But I find water for me, like, I can do the same on earth, like when I take my shoes off and I really plant into earth. But water for me, and whether that's just my nature or whether that's partly to do because I am fire, like I am a Sagittarian fire, that I'll go into the ocean or I need those showers. I need those bodies of water and I seek them out. I've got like an inner rule, not a rule, but an inner rule that when I see a body of water, like to get in there and I have to wet my head, and it doesn't matter what season it is. We're in there and we're in the water. The only time I might not do that is in the snow, but I will still embody the presence of the water around me. But just that floating, because it reminds me of that protoplasm. It reminds me of the fact that then I'm one. Like as all the cells in my body meet the cells of the water, we are all one. And therefore, if I'm keeping my vibration at the highest frequency that I know, then that frequency is also being emanated out to the world. And again, one of these beautiful conversations that's happening with 8-year-olds around me at the moment is, how these beautiful bodies of water may have been over in India hanging out with an 8-year-old boy in India when he was sitting there bathing, and then how
Yeah.
we're in this body of water right now, where it connects us.
Mm.
And again, like Marie was saying, having gratitude for where is your journey been? Thank you so much for, like, I find that I'm equally drawn to ocean and, like, water streams, like rivers, like, you name it, because they both offer very different frequencies for me, and each have a different frequency. It's one of my favorite. Wherever I go, I'm always seeking out waterfall hikes to walk out to, and then go in and then just be in the water. And again, like, my favorite thing to do is to find that rock to jump off into the body of water and just be almost shell shocked into the energy of the water as well. Like, yeah.
Mm. Look, it's just amazing, It sounds, I've been talking to my kids for a while of late, but what I've come to learn, again, in a very physical sense of water, is when I was living in Sydney, I was so used to swimming in Sydney, didn't have a consciousness about it. Got to Coffs Harbour and noticed that the water feels nicer here. It was very supportive. I enjoyed really swimming in there. It was just a different feeling in that water. I remember when I was 50, I went to, had my 50th birthday over in Perth, and I thought, oh, I'm going to the Divine Feminine to the West. And I went over there and thought I have to, it wasn't very warm at the time, but I just knew I had to put myself into the feminine side, the western side of Australian waters, to just feel the presence of her energy over there. And it was harsh. I got such a shock because I was knocked over flat, and then it was a really harsh energy. And then I started to realize, wow, I hadn't kind of thought of hard or soft water before.
Yeah.
And I thought, this feels harsh. And then I said to my girlfriend that lives, I've noticed since we were 5, I said, I just have this feeling through this water that the women in WA are really angry and they're really harsh right now. That if you found it with your friends, are they really angry? Or if you notice there's a collective energy here about the women over here? And she said yes. And I thought, well, I can feel it in the water, because that's what the message I got was the collective again, is we're all impacting. Everything we're feeling is going out to the greater, and it's dropping from the sky, it's hitting into the water. Is that this was this energy, this beloved water over here was holding on to. So then I knew that it was my job to purge through that, to release that, to violet flame it, send it love, do the whole feminine thing in the water. So I did that thing, and I taught her what to do. Whether she did it or not, doesn't matter. Then I moved to Queensland on the Gold Coast. And I remember the first day I got here, my daughter started high school. I had to unpack, but I had to go and pick her up. And it was a really hot day. And I just thought, I'm going early enough to go and throw myself into the water here, and then I'll go to school and collect her on a first day. And I raced down to our beach, which is Tugun, near the airport, and so it's got stuff going on. But I just threw myself in because I was so hot. And what shocked me straight away was, this water's soft. Like, I could feel the softness of the water. And then I had the comparison of all the water bodies I've ever been in, oceans, thinking, wow, I can feel the difference in this energy again. But this is simply, again, what we're moving through, because water holds energy. So it's holding the collective consciousness of those areas. You might be living near a dam, a stream, a creek, a river. It's going to hold the consciousness of the beings around it. If you've got a pool in your own place, it's going to hold consciousness. Water will teach you. It's a fantastic teacher, as energy is a great teacher. Sage is a teacher. But water, when you tune to it, you feel, and you very clearly feel the difference. And then I just knew, because the sand was different up here too, and the energies are definitely different up here, is that the sand was squeaky like the old days when I was a kid, back in the 60s and 70s. And that's the level of quartz. So this sand up here is loaded with quartz. Quartz is a generator of energy. It holds frequency. So this, with the water, these two are working together. So there must be a lot of quartz under the sand in that ocean as well. But it's holding a whole heap of energy here that is lightening up. It's a higher frequency. I can feel it, absolutely. And the people, like all people will be attracted to certain areas. But I know Martine feels it when she comes up here. It feels different to when she has to go back, and we all adjust accordingly to wherever we go. But just to give you again that consciousness, to just start to think a little outside the box, or to look at things a little differently. You know, I've had, I know we're watchful of our time today because I know I do have to move, but if it's okay, Martine, I'd love to share one story. I've done a lot of work over the years with water in my role that I feel with the clan mothers and the Earth Mother. But one in particular is two, but I'll just tell the one. One in particular was with an end of a clan mother group many, many years ago when I was in Coffs, and we went up to Dorrigo. And again, I sort of turn up in places. A friend, one of the girls organised this place, and I didn't know the land, the lay of the land. And I just knew we'd be doing water work. So anyway, on this property, it was amazing. And down the bottom there was this stream. It was a large stream. It wasn't a river, and it was like it was the end. But when we went down there, I went the day before we did the work, and I looked at it and I just felt dead water. This is dead. And I knew we would be working on Grafton because Grafton really needed some help with energies. And Spirit showed me after I looked at the stream, if I'd been down there, I sat with it and I just felt my way through it. And I went back that night before the big workshop the next day. And I knew we had to accelerate the energies through the river system, and that river system had all tributaries, and this ended up coming out in the Grafton region. So they guided me what they wanted me to do, how they wanted me to do this. So this must have been around 2009, end of 9-10, because I'd done my sounding course in the US and I had my forks. They were fairly new in my toolbox. So we had 13 of us, no coincidence, in this group. And when I got down there, bless them, they all follow me around everywhere. They used to just go wherever I'd go. And I'd just say to them, okay, I just had the feeling we all had to form this shape. It had to be geometric. Okay. So again, this is the science. This is the physics coming into your work. So I just sort of knew, can you go there? Can you stand there? Can you hear? Didn't know what I was doing because I couldn't see the pattern at ground level, but I knew I needed two in the water in this stream. And I said, is anybody willing? Because I knew I had to be on the higher level. Two blessed souls said, yep, we'll go in. It wasn't warm, I can tell you. And so they went in and they stood there. Anyway, as we're just about to start, I had one male in the group and he said, we've just formed the Southern Cross. And I went, oh, have we? So here we are now taking it up onto another level. And I went, okay, great. Well, you hold that and we'll do what we've got to do. So all we did was sound. I had my forks. We all had forks. I split the forks out. Some didn't. We were just ahhing and sounding from the heart. I don't know how long it was. And in those days when I was really working, I have a polyharmonic voice. So a few sounds can come through my sounds when I get going, but I could really hit this pitch. Anyway, I was just sounding on some hertz frequency I have no idea of. Because I remember my body was feeling like it was lifting off the ground. I was vibrating, and the colors in my mind were psychedelic. They were crazy, off the chart. I'd never experienced anything like it, and I knew I was loud. Not that sound like that loudness is important, but I knew I was. And I could hear them in the distance, but I'd lost track of them. I didn't know. I just knew it was happening, but I was in my own little zone, and the intention and everything Spirit was showing me about the water, and it was just happening. So that was fine. We all came down, we finished. I thought, right, we're done. There's the water. I didn't actually pay attention because I'm a bit out of body when I come off out of these things. And I just sort of sat down for a minute feeling quite like what happened. And then the girls came out of the water. I think one might have stayed in, and they're just saying, look. And I'm kind of like, I don't know. I just wasn't even hearing it. I just sort of, and they're saying, look, Marie, look. I'm going, what? Anyway, the water was, it had picked up. We had a stream flowing. We had running water, and it looked clearer, and it was moving down. And I was like, oh my God. And they were like, wow. And the girls in the water, it's like, well, this one girl, she could actually say, well, I couldn't even stand. When you were sounding and it went to the fever pitch, I couldn't hold my feet in the water any longer. The water was just tipping me and pushing through me. And she said, we were watching that water take off and what was going downstream. So she said, we just added our violet flame to it and we just sent it off as well. But this is the power we hold. You know, this is the energy. Water is waiting for you. And I wanted to get them today because I forgot, but I'll do them next time. Is that after that I left and I just needed to have a bit of a sit down. And then later I could hear again girls coming running up. They'd gone swimming. Everybody wanted to swim in the water then. They did. I didn't. I didn't feel like I needed to do that. And then a couple came back saying, you got to look at this, look at this, look at this. And we didn't have a lot of, instant or mobile stuff then, but it was a camera, I think. I can't remember which sort of camera. And they said, look what we've captured. And they actually captured this beautiful, which looks like a fairy. It was orange and it had wings, and you could see it was of a feminine, like almost a feminine bust and figure, and they had wings. And there was 3 different shots of this amazing, what they called a fairy, but it was actually a water spirit. And the water spirit had come out and said that how grateful that they were that we'd done our work, and that they'd been waiting for so long, and that finally they were free now to do what they needed to do, and that they would continue the work on into the systems.
Shivers.
And that was that. Never forgot it. And neither of those people that were with me. There's more stories.
Oh, there's more stories. I can't wait for the dolphin story.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Another time.
Yeah. But that's just to show you, that's the power we hold. And as we come together, one heart, one mind.
Yeah.
Amplify.
I think a really good practice for you all would be with that intention of water that we've spoken about on various levels. But if you want to really amplify it, then Marie used to do this a lot, and she was the one that kind of showed me the power of this. When you write like any frequency on a word, or any remedy, or any quality that you're wanting to start to embody, so whether that is gratitude or whether that is love, and you're just writing it on your like on a piece of paper, and then just placing the water over that piece of paper with that intention, and letting that absorb into the water as well. And so really taking it up that next level as well. And I know that Marie and I have always kept, like, everyone used to laugh at my water system. I've got like it used to be called a Nick and PMAG, and they've now changed names, but I've had that water system for like it's got to be pushing 20 years, and it goes through like a million layers, and it's got a whole bunch of mineralizing things in there. It's like it's on steroids, and everyone used to be like, is that like a fish tank? I'm like, no, that's just my water. But I've got crystals that sit in the bottom of that, or if I've got something in the fridge in summer, I've got crystals that sit in the bottom of that.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
And they're just interchangeable as well as to what resonates in that moment, because again, I like to mix it up. I don't like to just leave a crystal just doing all the work. We're also in charge, just like Marie's story with the water fairy. We have to nurture these little alive beings as well. So listening to what they need to.
They're not just rocks.
They're not just rocks. Everything's alive.
That's right.
Well, I feel like that's good. That's a good
starter
point. Do you think? Anything
I
else
think
you want
so.
to share?
No, I think that's probably enough for today. I think it's good food for thought, because I've actually got the feeling, if you're feeling it, that we could do a part 2 next, because I'd love to use this in practicality terms now, in the way of changing your world and your body, your chakras and your health.
Let's do it.
And how that your words and using that word that you just suggested, how important the inner words and the outer words are to those crystal aspects of ourself, and how we can start shifting that for greater flow and for greater health and immunity.
And ultimately where we're all heading, where that seeking outside of ourselves for those answers, and really starting to do the work within.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about within. Yeah. Oh, no, that sounds good for me. Feels good.
All right. Well, lovely to connect with you guys all once more.
Yes, finally we're back.
Are out there.
We'll probably assault you now with a few in a row. Here comes the hub. Look out.
All right.
You take care, and I will see you, and I'll see all of you when we do.
Yeah. Bye.
Thanks, Martine. Bye.